Alright, welcome to Doozer Shop. It's like Wednesday night, and I did some stuff here out in the shop this weekend. I didn't film it, and it was kind of greasy work, but I wanted to bring you guys another video. So I figured I'd come out here this evening, and it's a work night, and show you what I've been doing this weekend. Started off looking for something in my house garage, and I found I got some metal shelves, and I found oil all over one of the shelves. So I looked, and it turned out to be grease had flowed out of this gearbox, and I ended up cleaning up the shelf with lacquer thinner, and this gearbox I had saved because it was going to be part of a future project, and I said, well, let's scrub the grease off it, take it apart, and see if it's salvageable, and see if I can use it for what I wanted to potentially use it for. But let me go handheld for a minute here. I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll dig into it. So, let's see what I can do here. All right. So there it is. You may be saying, well, what is this thing? Well, it's got a crank handle, and it's a gearbox, okay? And I started pulling it apart a little bit before, but so notice the shape of that handle. So it's chrome and it's round. It's kind of a boxy, kind of squared off rim, and it's got a flat kind of profiled middle section. And it's tapered from top to bottom. It's got a little bit of a taper to it. A spinning handle, which is kind of nice. And you know what it makes me think of is this. So, walking into stuff. So the Covell grinder has kind of tapered handles, but it's tapered from the center tapering in and the center tapering in, and it's got two little noogies on either side. And it's kind of a rounded profile all the way around. And the other one that I just showed you was sort of a rectangular, squarish profile. And then you have the Boyer-Schultz, which is more of a square profile, and this is actually, it's a little like the Covell, but not quite. It doesn't have the little doodle hangers on either side, and it's pretty much straight. You know, it's it's even thicker on this side to counterweight the handle, but it spins too. So maybe surface grinders are just predisposed to having this handle. So, is that handle a Boyer-Schultz? From a Boyer-Schultz grinder? I don't know. Is it from a Covell grinder? I don't know. But, you know, like, that's obviously on a lathe, 4-spoke. I suspect it has a grinder feel to it. And I love hand wheels. I have a collection upstairs. I should show you guys with the camera someday. Either way, so it's got this gearbox, and that's where all the oily goo came out of. It was right there, because it was sitting sideways on the shelf, whatever. This is a gear reduction box. I think it's 3.5 turns to the input and 1 turn on the output. Okay? It's actually like 3.6 turns. Call it 3.5. And how did I get this and where did it come from? Well, let me put you on, I'm going to set you right up on that drawer of my parts cabinet. And I'm going to put you right there and I'll show you. So. And let me kind of aim you down for an Altoids box. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. So you can see, maybe you can see. Is it spinning? I can't even see myself. Yeah. So it's, yeah, 3.5 turns. And like I said, I suspect that on here was a gear that drove the rack of a surface grinder. Okay. Let me show you an up close. Now that I got it flipped over, let me show you one more thing before I put the camera up again. So, let me orient the light better, maybe. The deal is, I'm sure you're thinking, what the heck's going on here? This was broken off. See this shaft? I believe that's 7/8. Maybe it's an inch. I don't know. But that was broken. As you can see, the grains of the metal, the steel, this was broken. And it was a hard shaft, so it broke clean. And this casting inside this ring was all broken. You can see the chowdered up remains of a broken casting. And what I did this weekend, so this comes apart, and I'll show you that. I set it on the face, on the surface grinder magnet, on the red Boyer-Schultz grinder. I just plopped it on the magnet and I ground the back surface. And like I said, this was a turned finish, and it was protruding from the surface. This inner part where the inside the ring was all gnarly as the brake is on the shaft, but it was, you know, the iron. And it looked like this had broken off the machine. But somebody, I bet you at one point this was broken. And this is not brazing in the form of bronze. This is too light a color to be bronze. I believe that is silver solder. You can see there's some bubbles and porosity in it. I believe that, I'm thinking this was broken once and they repaired it, and then it was broken a second time and it actually snapped the shaft. They probably had to dump the machine over. But it's neat how all the braze material ground off and there's still a ring here. And I don't think these are two pieces. I think that was machined in there, and I thought, could this be a bushing? This could be an iron bushing in the casting, and it just happened to be the fillet was there, and due to the repair, it got filled with silver solder. I don't know. Unusual to use silver solder for a repair like this, only because it's very expensive, and aluminum bronze would have been cheaper. But so I found this gearbox casting in the dumpster at my friend Jim C's house. So Jim, my buddy Jim, Grand Island, New York, he's the gentleman I bought the Rockford planer off Jim, okay? So this, and I must have got this way before. I've probably had this for, I don't know if I had it for 10 years, doesn't matter. But anyhow, I took it apart because the grease was coming out of it just to see if I could use it. Now, like I said, it's a 3.5 to 1 reduction ratio. And what I wanted to do, possibly, my thought was, is to do just what I did. Grind this off, and now I can drill and tap a bolt circle in there and put a plate on it and make some kind of adapter. And wouldn't it be nice to be a little extra? I thought it was going to be, I'm going to add it to the tailstock because I thought it was a 2-speed unit. I thought it was 1 to 1 and 3.5 to 1. And an extra reduction on the tailstock of a lathe is nice for drilling with big drill bits. But after farting around with it, it's not 2-speed. It's just 3 to 1. So I believe this drove a rack of a surface grinder. And it had a fairly good sized gear to drive the rack. Hence the reduction ratio. I bet the gear, well, this is the old gear off the, holy shoot, is that going to even fit? It even fits. I bet you that was a gear on there of approximately that size, and that's the gear from my lathe that was broken, so it's not it, to drive a rack of a surface grinder. Now, if any of you guys see this, and I'll show you some more details of it, give me your thoughts of what brand of surface grinder this came from. And I think it came from a Landis. But then I watched some YouTube videos and I did some searching on Landis machines, and I don't think it is a Landis. I think it's something else. Norton? I don't know. Let me sit you back. Don't drop the camera, Doozer. Alright. So, yeah, you can see it. So, let me take this apart a little bit, okay? So, and I just had this set on there. And it's interesting. It's got a hollow in there and a taper pin. You can probably see the pin. Taper pin, but it's a good size hole in it, and this was the seal surface, but nice hand wheel. And like I say, if you guys if you know what grinder, or if it is, maybe it's not even a grinder. Oh, you know what had handles like this is Barbara Coleman stuff. Barbara Coleman lathes, and I don't know if they're gear hobbers. This could have been off a gear hobber for all I know. No idea. But it's a cool hand wheel nonetheless. So that's what this looks like. And this goes in and out. That's why I thought it was a 2-speed unit, because it goes in and out, and I thought out was direct and in is reduction. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that way. Got some 1/4-20 screws in there. And like I said, I had this apart this weekend, and it was covered in grease, so I figured now's a good time to take a video of it while the grease has been cleaned away. Alright. Nut comes off. So this is interesting. It's got these grooves in there I don't think it was meant for 2 O-rings, even though you could probably put 2 small cross-section O-rings in there. I think it was, and it's not a labyrinth seal, I don't think, to keep oil and grease in there. But I've seen this feature. Oh, I know what it is. That's actually a bushing, and that's to keep oil around the bushing maybe. If any of you guys have seen this before, it's sort of in an area where, so this would bear, hold on. You know what? The fit, no, I can't show you. The fit, I bet you there's 40 thousandths in there, and you could, that would make sense that a couple of O-rings would be creating a seal in there. Whatever, I don't know. It's just kind of cut out inside, nothing special. Iron casting. So this is cool. It's got a planetary setup. It's got one planet gear that orbits, right? And there's a, there you go. There's a ring gear, the sun gear is the tube, and the planet goes around. You know. Usually there's multiple gears in planetary gear trains. Ooh, there you go. And of course, you can see the gear teeth on the sun gear. But that's how that works, and that's really cool. So, if I take this out, you can kind of see. There you go. There. Good isometric shot. That's how that works. So, let me hold it down here, you can see. So this is the shaft. So the output shaft, being the, you know, the bottom shaft, is tied to the planet gear, which is this little guy. Look at the wear. And I don't even think that's in the bronze bushing. I think that's, the shaft is worn. Okay? And I could take the snap ring off and verify that, but because the bronze bushing is not worn, but the steel shaft is, what that tells me, see, the bronze should have taken the wear, okay? But the steel shaft took the wear, and why would that be? And that kind of tells me that this could have been an abrasive situation, where abrasive, this will do this on bronze nuts and Acme shafts, where the abrasive will embed in the softer material, being the bronze, and the bronze will hold the abrasive grit, and then the abrasive grit will wear the steel shaft. Like it will be like a lap, because you charge laps, which is a softer material than the material you're lapping. You charge it with abrasive, and it does the lapping. So if this was operated in a clean environment with oil or grease or whatever, and no grit, the bushing would wear out because it's softer, because it's bronze, and the steel shaft would receive minimal wear, and the sacrificial part would be the bronze. Here it appears the steel shaft sacrificed itself for wear. So that is another clue that makes me think that this is from a surface grinder and it lived in an abrasive environment. Even though it had grease or heavy oil in there, I believe it was contaminated with an abrasive. And these gears, upon closer inspection, they're nicked up pretty good. If I can show you, I don't know if this camera, How can I sell this? So typically on a gear face, if it's not full contact, like here at the edges is like virgin unworn gear material at the very edge, and you can see the worn difference in the worn area in the middle. So the very edge, and the reason for that is this, okay? Let me show you. Hold on. I absolutely suck. Okay, making videos. This little gear is not as wide as the big gear. So the big gear doesn't wear because nothing's touching it on the edge, you know, right? It wears across the face where the gear, the narrower gear is touching it. But as far as the edge right here, this is kind of unworn. So when you, and it's subtle, but when you compare the unworn area to the worn middle, these gears are worn a decent bit. You know, they're not completely spanked. This gear is getting pointy. You can kind of tell it's getting pointy. And when they wear, you can kind of tell they're getting thin. But that's something you look for, is a thinner gear or like a narrower gear running against a wider gear, and you can always tell the unworn portion where it's not making face contact and compare it, you know, to the face area that is riding against the narrower gear. So that's a little detective work, and the fact that that's loose, and it's not the bushing that's worn so much as the steel shaft. So this could be repaired. You could put a new shaft in and a new gear and a new bushing. Like this little gear, you could probably buy this from Boston Gear. And this big gear, it's not, it's an okay shape, but it's not. So this is like a forging, or not a forging, a casting. You can see this has been cast. It's not a forging, it's a casting. You can kind of see the surface. But look at that brake, man. I think we snapped. And this shaft is worn undersized. It's polished like the Dickens. It's almost like chrome, but you measure it and you measure the bushing, it's under nominal by quite a bit. A nominal fraction, I think, would be like, I think that's an inch, or could be 7/8, I forget. Probably lived in that gritty environment. So again, more clues that it was a surface grinder. So I mean, you guys are tired of seeing that, but I just think that's cool. Why did I grind that? I was kind of having fun, kind of researching if that would be able to be cleaned up. So this thing, it's hollow way down deep. You can see it in there. Actually, you put there, and you can kind of maybe see. There you go. You can see how it's got like a U-shaped thing at the bottom, a U-shaped crevice that kind of goes deep. And that, as far as I can tell, is just for grease. And you can see the ring gear in there. And the teeth are a little worn. Not too bad, because the wear is kind of distributed. You can even see right around 12 o'clock they cleaned up the casting. They snagged it, or they must have dropped an end mill in there to take off a piece of schmung when it was being manufactured. But that's kind of cool. It's a neat casting, you know. But I just thought I'd show you, you know, a little bit about this. And it was just sort of a cleanup project. I don't know if I'll ever do anything with this. So I just set it on the magnet on the surface grinder. I filed the surface and I gave it a light stoning to make sure it was going to sit flat when I popped it upside down on the magnet, and then I dusted this off. I think this piece is a little too worn out. Here, I'm putting this in backwards, but there's a lot of slop in there. I bet you there's, oh hell, 40 or 50 thousandths worth of wear between the bushing and the shaft. The fit is worn that much. So no doubt that this thing's seen some abrasive in its lifetime, and I think it's from a surface grinder. But it's kind of neat to talk about the details, not the details, the clues that build the mystery of where this came from. No, like I said, this came from my buddy Jim's dumpster, and I seen the hand wheel, and I'm like, I'm kind of a hand wheel collector a little bit. So I grabbed it, and then the fact that it was a gearbox, and I seen that it was snapped off, I thought, well, there's a story here, and maybe I can use this. And it's not 2-speed, and there's a bushing thing, and this comes off this shaft because it's 2 pieces and whatever, but there's a story here. And, you know, Jim had, he buys things at auctions, machines, and he threw it away because it wasn't worth his time. You know, you only have so much time in your life to mess around with stuff. But I seen it there, I thought it had some value. And now that I get into it, really the only value I think it has is it's got a cool hand wheel, but the gearbox and the stuff is just kind of shot. Not completely shot, it would work for, it would certainly work for the surface grinder, except the fact that it got broke off. Now, if this was my grinder and the riggers dropped it, or something happened and it broke the casting, then this is how I would fix this. I would surface grind this like I did, drill and tap a bolt circle in there and put a plate on it, and you know, fix it that way. If it was as worn as it is, I'd probably bore this out in the lathe or in the mill or something with the boring head, and press fit a new bronze bushing in there and fix it that way. And probably make a new shaft for the, I mean, there's 1,000 things you can do. And I've got enough projects where I don't need to do that. But the fact that I grabbed this thing 10 years or so ago, and I kept it, and I had it in my mind, what this did for me is it occupied a place in my mind for 10 or so years, and I knew I had it, and I knew I kind of had an idea for a project for it, to make a 2-speed tailstock for the one of my lathes or something. And what I'm trying to say is, I like having stuff, and I like having a plan for stuff in my mind, what I could use it for. And what I just did this weekend, of taking this apart, and there was so much grease, I was scooping it out with a popsicle stick, and I put all the grease in a paper cup, and I don't know. I just cleaned it up and spent way more time than I should have on this. But it could have been a cool gearbox for my lathe. Now, let me go handheld. I want to show you what I could use it for. In its condition, it's not stripped out, but it's all worn to heck. It still functions, okay? And the gears are not going to slip. But what I could use it for is I'm going to grab the camera. I'll show you. right. This is my K.R. Wilson. This is a nice one. I think it's called Model 37. Or is it? 37R, okay. So this is 25 honest tons, 30 tons if you have a pucker factor, but honest 25. This thing, I remember I got it. The light is terrible, but this casting was broken on the bottom here, and I fixed it a long time ago. I brazed it back together, and actually I put this casting on a rotary table, a 7-inch rotary table, and I spun it under the surface grinder wheel. So I rotary ground this on a reciprocating grinder back when I lived. I don't remember if I was living at home. No, I don't remember. Either way. Oh yeah, K.R. Wilson. Okay, so this is a cool press. I won't get into it right now, but I love it and I use it. So to move the table up and down, it's got this little cranky thing, right? And let's say this goes, and it goes up, and I think it goes back down. Yeah, it comes back here. And there's one on the other side for the whatever. This is the winch to raise and lower the table, and you pull the pins and whatever. And it's just got a square, and that's all. But this thing is so heavy because there's no reduction, it's just a spool. But I thought, wouldn't that gearbox that we've all been just talking about, if I adapted that somehow, it'd stick out like a sore thumb, wouldn't it? This sucker would be, well, that thing comes out to right. And it's got a little, this dog thing. It's a clicker dog, doesn't matter. But it's got 2 bolts. Yeah, one there and one at the top that hold this on. But that's something I thought that might be good for. It hardly ever gets used, but when you do use it, you'd like that to be easy to crank. And I thought of actually mounting it below and putting the hand wheel backwards and the output shaft coupling it with a chain to the input of that winding drum. I don't know. That might be good for that 3.5 to 1 ratio, because 1 to 1 with that crank, dude, it is a pain in the butt to lift that table. And yes, I could put a boat winch there, but it wouldn't be original K.R. Wilson, and not that that really matters, but it's the original one's in good shape. And how cool would it be to adapt something from some grinder that came out of a dumpster, someone, you know, where in Buffalo, New York, that probably was, I mean, there's a history to everything. I mean, this shit came from Buffalo. It could be radioactive. I mean, you know, the bomb project stuff that went on in Buffalo, you don't know. Could be killing me, man. I always wanted a Geiger counter just to see what kind of rads are floating around my stuff. But anyways, put you back. So I guess I'll end it here. It's sort of an overview, a retrospective analysis of what I did this weekend on this gearbox thing. I don't know, should I save it? I'm going to save the hand wheel. Maybe I should just pitch the gearbox, even though I did spend time grinding and cleaning it. It gave me, this is not it, but a coffee cup full of grease. that lit on fire out in my stone driveway and burned all the grease. It was pretty fun. Don't tell anybody. I know I'm going to hell for burning grease. Alright. Until next time, everybody be good. This has been Doozer's Shop.